Greetings, I am Tom Earl. On this week's episode, we talk alignment is the new hustle with Jodi-Kay Edwards. Check it out. Woo! Greetings, I am Tom Earl, and this is my year of grace. We know you could be anywhere, so the fact that you are here today sharing your greatest gifts, your time and energy, means the world to me. I hope you know that in this moment you are valued, you are appreciated, and you are loved just as you are. As you can see, I am not alone. I have an amazing guest. She goes by the name of Jodi-Kay Edwards. How's it going today, Jodi?
Good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us.
Happy to be here. Happy to be here.
Do you mind if I introduce you to the audience out there via reading your bio? Is that cool?
Okay. Please do. Yeah.
Jodi-Kay Edwards is the founder of Alignment is the New Hustle, a business strategy and personal development brand helping entrepreneurs build wildly profitable businesses in a flow state. She's a firm believer that when your inner work meets your outer work, you're on your way to creating magic. Her mission is to empower entrepreneurs worldwide to create lucrative lives and businesses so they can grow their impact and income. Her courses, coaching, and platforms have been used to transform the lives of thousands of entrepreneurs. Her goal is to not only transform lives, but transform the journey entrepreneurs embark upon. That's amazing.
Woo, thanks. Yeah, I probably changed that like 12 times, so it's good.
Yes. So I always start the interview by sharing that, the bio is amazing and it can only say so much about who you are. So how would you answer this prompt? If you really knew me, you'd know that
I am weird. I love technology and strategies just like before it was a business thing. Like, how am I going to organize my room? What is the best way? Like, how can I achieve like this perfect balance? And I am lactose intolerant, but I love dairy. So I am constantly in pain from that.
That's awesome. So, what we want to do is just get a little bit about you, maybe just a little bit of the origin story, and then we can go into some of the nitty gritty, dive into some of these topics. Does that work for you?
Totally. Yeah, 100%. So backstory, I was actually born in Jamaica, and before I moved to America, I was climbing coconut trees, cracking coconuts open, eating them. That was like my fun day to day, right? So then imagine the change when I shifted and came to America, and then all of a sudden I had like TVs and social media and all these things that were happening. So I feel like I'm literally the definition of that, like person that's in like a big city still trying to just now having access to all of these resources, which kind of led me to my tagline today, which is you are your best resource. At times you feel like you might not have any because I grew up in so much poverty. Even when I came to America, it was just my mom and I, we didn't have a whole lot. I never knew my father, but my mom really always instilled in me this sense of education. So that's where my love for learning came. And as a business coach now today, it's still happening. It's still there. They say, if you're not sure what you're passionate about, look at the things you enjoy doing when you're younger, right? From 0 on up, 0 to 7 is where we have like the highest impression that's made upon us. And so my years are filled with reading books and trying to just grow. And that was like my key. Like education was my gateway to having more when in my current reality, I didn't really have much. If I had enough, I had my basic needs met. But after that, going through school, I was bullied a lot and just different. And I turned all of that into something. And that really is how I am here today, is taking my, I'm not gonna say pitfalls or failures, quote unquote, because we always learn something from it, but taking those experiences that happened to me, the bullying, the poverty, the just not having there's a lot of other things that happened that I know I could have been crushed by, but use that to build this online empire that I have today and just build the momentum to educating others and sharing my stories. And I know other people have a story to share as well. And so my mission really today is to help other people get their story out there, monetize it, and get paid for it. But essentially, just being from a smaller country to moving to America now, and growing up in that system, realizing that I was meant for more. I could not sit behind a desk in a 9 to 5 all day, and no shade to anyone that's doing that right now. I just had so much creativity inside me that I was like, I need to figure out a different way to get from behind the desk and generate enough income where I can travel and be with my friends and family and do what I want when I want. And that's really where a lot of my focus was growing up even. So this isn't an overnight thing. It actually started from way back when, of having that need. I'm sure anyone watching this can relate, where you have that fire, that burning desire inside you to do something different. And after college, I kind of dabbled in becoming an influencer until I could do that part-time and then full-time, and then realized, hey, I can do more things, right? Instead of just working with brands, I can be my own brand. And after college, I got my bachelor's degree. Did not get my master's, putting it out there. It was something I heavily thought about and something my mom really wanted for me. But I actually turned it down and said, you know what, I'm going to go for it and try this entrepreneur thing and see where that takes me.
And so then what was the moment where Alignment is the New Hustle came into being? When did you breathe life into that brand, that business?
Oh my gosh. It actually probably started out as an idea in college. I didn't have all the words together, but when the words did come together, my mind went back to this one specific memory. And it was my senior year in college. I was so burnt out, in a really low place. What I left out was grew up with severe anxiety and depression, and it only got worse over the years as those things were happening. And I didn't understand how to work with those thoughts and, help myself back then. But I was hustling. I was in college. We were broke. My mom didn't have money. I had taken out a Parent Plus loan. I had a loan for myself. I was going to school, working 2 jobs, and taking a little stab at that blogging thing. And I was just in such a deep depression that I called my mom bawling one day, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. Like, I want to quit, like everything. And without getting into too much detail, we kind of had a pep talk, but it almost wasn't enough. Like, I had these just terrible negative thoughts for the longest time. And glad to say I'm here still. I made it across the stage, brighter days ahead. But I realized it was that feeling of being so out of alignment that caused me to feel that way, that caused me to feel that overwhelm, that stress, that like it didn't matter what I thought, it didn't matter what I did. And really to take that like deep, dark moment and turn it into light. And when I realized, well, what do I want to, why am I here? What is my purpose? It's not just to go to school. It's not just to graduate and get a job and then work until I die. If that's what I'm feeling, there's something more. And when I explored that, I realized that I started enjoying life a lot more. I started enjoying the process, that quote, trust the process. I started enjoying the journey. And I found that it was because alignment is the new hustle. Like, instead of literally killing ourselves with all the hustle, worrying about being all these things and doing all these things, when we can take a step back and fall into alignment with our true soul's purpose, who we want to be, decide who we want to show up as, it literally is like magic. Like, there's like a flip that switch, and you're all of a sudden like you have this new lease on life, so to speak, where you're excited to wake up and you're excited to share your message. And it's really exciting when you get paid for that as well. But the brand really stems from my pain, my suffering. And the more I got my brand out there, the more I realized other people, whether they were trying to be entrepreneurs or not, had a similar journey. And if you've ever felt like giving up in like any capacity, that's not the answer, right? Like, if you're trying to run a marathon, the answer is not to give up and all of a sudden think you're going to be able to run a marathon. If you're trying to start a business, the answer is to not give up. If you're going through something right now really hard in life where you just don't see a light at the end of the tunnel, like, the answer is to not give up. So I realized that was my message, where I could build a strong brand off of that. and always stay authentically myself and have those tough conversations that no one really seems to be having online. Like no one is talking about those moments when you can't get out of bed or when your anxiety is like crippling and or when you feel like stuck in this trap that you just can't seem to get out of, you know? So my brand really captures all of that, but then also gives entrepreneurs the strategies and the tools to be successful in terms of not just business strategies, but personal development as well.
I love that. And I appreciate you, being so open. And you were saying, no one's starting that conversation. So I appreciate you being someone that's having the courage to start that conversation. So thank you.
Got to. Be the change you want to see in the world, right?
Exactly. So what is alignment?
Alignment. To me, alignment, and this is funny because this is something I ask guests on my podcast. So to have it asked back to me, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. To me, alignment is being, like trying not to describe it using the word it is, being in this state of flow. And if we're going to break that down, this state of flow is where you're attracting things easily to you, things come easily, or where you have the clarity for how you're going to get from point A to point B. And even if you don't have that clarity, you trust yourself enough that you're going to be able to find those answers. So to me, being in alignment is really embodying that success that you're looking for. So if someone wants to be in alignment with something, they obviously have like a goal, or they have, I tend to find my alignment seekers are the high achievers. They really want the most out of life for themselves. So being in alignment is embodying what success is, learning to trust the process, and knowing that you really are your best resource. So no matter if your path is straight or it's like this or it's like this and not like this, when you're in that flow state, in true alignment with your wants and your desires and building out the life that you want, it like, whew, and I can almost just like breathe easier right now, right? Because it's just, it feels that good. It feels like a weight has been lifted off of your shoulders and you know what you want for yourself. And if you don't know how to get there, you're able to find those resources to help you get there.
So you're saying, it's the new hustle. So how is that not hustle? Like, what do you mean by it's the new hustle?
Alignment is a new hustle. The old way of hustle was this idea that in order to be successful, the only way to do that is to work. So we have the rise and grind. We have the those hashtags, those coffee mugs, those t-shirts, and there's nothing wrong with that because not everyone is looking for alignment. So not everyone is looking for the meditating or the manifesting or the attraction or learning about NLP or neurolinguistic programming or even learning how your brain works or breaking down like what energy particles are happening in your body, right? So that's where, in me saying alignment is new hustle, I'm branded as this type of spiritual entrepreneur where those people that are attracted to me and my message, they have this sense of wanting alignment for themselves, right? The old hustling is we're not thinking about what's going on in our head at all. We just know that if I need to be successful, my grandpa woke up and walked 15 miles to the store with no shoes, and when he came home, he worked for 7 hours and got 0 sleep, and he was miserable, but now he's a millionaire. The new hustle is this idea that success may or may not happen overnight for you, but when you tune in and you are your best resource, when you tune in to yourself and check in with yourself, like, does this feel right? Does this energetically align with me? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe I can choose better decisions. It's now incorporating not just your wants and needs, but you're thinking about it. You're actually like spending time talking to yourself, checking in with yourself. Like, does this feel like an energetic match for me? Where the old way, that really wasn't there. Like back in those days, that's why Napoleon Hill was like the best thing since sliced bread. He introduced this concept, but it wasn't like wildly popular or wildly adapted until like the last few years, to be honest. So the new hustle is really getting the message out there that you can still be successful without killing yourself, like without working so hard that you're so exhausted that you have no balance between pleasure and family and business and all of these things. It's breaking the mold of what we used to think the hustle was, and acknowledging that that can't be the only way, right? That can't be the only way. How many people do we know that work 10, 15 hours a week and they are not really any more successful than the next person who's eating right, working out, making time to sleep, and spending time with their family? They might not be super happy, but if you had a choice of barely making it out of bed because you're going off 1 hour sleep, or making it out of bed, but you're still kind of not fully where you want to be yet, but you feel rested and you're excited to go and you're driven with purpose and you feel in alignment, like which one would you choose? There's no right or wrong answer. It's just one of these is meant for you and one of these isn't.
And if you don't mind me adding in, I think for me, it's that if you're going to work 60 hours, is it fun? Versus when you get to that like 50th hour where you're like just forcing it and it's like painful and there's nothing about it you like. I think that's what you're saying, to kind of release those hours and do something that feels good with them instead of, am I kind of getting this right?
Yeah. It's like, why work that 55th hour if you don't feel like it, right? Is there something else you can do to rejuvenate so you can work 55 hours again next week if that's what you want to do? But taking time to check in with yourself of, are you working 55 hours a week because that's what you believe is going to make you successful, but you're tired and you're not checking with yourself, so you don't really know if you're getting anywhere or not, or you don't even really acknowledge if you're happy or not? Or would you rather have those conversations of like, okay, I'm going to work 55 hours a week, but I enjoy it because this is connected to my why, and I know exactly why I'm doing this. I'm providing for myself, providing for my family, and you feel good about it, versus just mindlessly doing it because you think that's the only way you know, and that's what people need to see is the hustle.
So let's say I'm listening. I'm like, Jodi, I'm with you. I hear you. And here it comes. But, like it takes work to put in this work. So how do I know, like, if I'm not just being lazy? Like, I don't feel like doing this. How do I know that I'm not crossing over into like laziness or maybe even fear versus alignment? How do I help?
No, that is an amazing question. And if we're going to take the woo part of it, so a big part of my brand is obviously very woo, right? So those are a lot of concepts that your average 9-to-5er, they may or may not have read books on this, or they may or may not be subscribed to Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, Marie Forleo. If you look at a lot of those people out there, those 7-8-figure entrepreneurs that are on stages and selling us stuff online, and we have those products and things like that, it could be foreign. So let's just say it's completely foreign to us. And all of a sudden you are interested in, let's go back to our running a marathon goal. And the steps you take there are someone else's steps. You don't really know why you're doing them. You just know, okay, well, I want to be able to run this marathon for XYZ reasons. This is what XYZ person told me to do, but it doesn't resonate with me, but I'm still going to do it anyway. You're like out of alignment. The same thing. Let's say you're listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, I've heard this. I don't get it. I don't understand manifesting. It's not about me. I think it's a load of crock. Again, that's not something that aligns with you. So don't adapt it as your own philosophy, right? We all have our own way of going through life, listening to things that make us happy, make us feel happy. But when it comes to that, let's say you have, your ego, which is going to be the part of you that wants to say, snooze an extra 5 minutes versus thinking, okay, well, I'm really tired. However, I know because I want to wake up and run 5 miles today, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to actually only hit my snooze button once, not 5 times instead. So you can always compromise with it. The laziness is going to come where you're really not checking in with yourself. And I hate to go back to this, but when you're not in alignment, when you're not checking in, when you're not understanding why you do something or why you don't do something, you're just living your life. That's what a lot of people are doing. But what if we could live our lives with intention, like intentional living, where all of a sudden now we can see, oh, you know what, girl, you snoozed like 12 times yesterday, and now you're complaining to your friend that you're not going to meet your deadline, and that person that gave you all that free advice is mad at you because you can't even run a mile yet, right? That's where, if you are in alignment, you're able to say, let me hold myself accountable. The reason I'm not where I want to be yet is because I hit snooze 12 times and I just pretended like it was best for me when really I knew it wasn't. And man, really wanted to be able to run that marathon by the next 3 months, but it looks like I'm not able to, and now you're sad about it. Even there, if we get to the very bottom of that, where you have like completely self-sabotaged something that you wanted out of pure laziness because you didn't understand your own habits, you can still pick back up, because now you know, okay, well, I realized that I got lazy. And guess what? The next marathon I sign up for, I'm not going to be lazy. That's a little tweak. So we kind of came full circle here, but that's a good question. How do you know? It's really the biggest thing you have to put on that to-do list is checking in with yourself. You were late today. Why? You didn't sign that client you wanted to. Why? You missed your kid's volleyball game. Why? Didn't put the toilet seat down. Didn't do the dishes. Now someone else is upset because of that. Why? Those are all things we can do to say, okay, how can I tell if I'm being mean? How can I tell if I'm being lazy? How can I tell if I'm in alignment, right? It just starts with asking, just checking in, have that quick convo with yourself.
So one thing that I'm kind of an aha that's arising from what you're saying, and I want to check with you to see if you're in agreement. I'm kind of hearing like another word besides alignment that we could substitute would be like self-awareness.
Yeah, totally. 100%. That's where that brand, the personal development, that's not something that we're born knowing how to do, right? Personal development, we're kind of shuffled through this process. We're born, we have to learn all these things. We have to learn how to walk, eat from a bottle, eat from a high chair, then we got to go to school. And maybe some of us don't do all of the schooling that society expects us or wants us to do. Maybe we do our own thing and then we're in this job or whatnot, right? There seems to be a typical blueprint that if you're not careful, if you don't have this level of self-awareness that you've developed for yourself, you're in this rat race. And again, there's literally nothing wrong with being in that rat race. It's the people that have those windows where they see someone else. Like if you've ever felt jealous of someone and you're like, oh my gosh, they're in Bali for the 12th time this year. I wish I could go. Well, why are you wishing? Like, how do you make that happen for yourself? And then there's people that are totally fine with where their life is. Again, there is nothing wrong with being in that rat race, right? But when I hear people say, I really want to do this and I don't know what's wrong with me and I don't know why I keep self-sabotaging, a majority of us have these wants. Like, I can't wait to leave my 9-to-5, or my significant other is driving me crazy, or my kids, like, I don't know how to get them to listen to me. It's very rare that you're going to come across someone who has zero goals and zero aspirations in life. And if you're one of those people that have goals and aspirations and you feel that you're not meeting them, that's where it's really good to say, okay, I've noticed that I self-sabotage. How can I do this? And that's personal development. You're developing your personality, the way you work, the way you talk to people, the way you act, the way you react.
So let's say I have that self-awareness, right? Some of the things you're pointing out, like, oh, why am I doing this thing? Or why am I doing that? Or why do I feel this? Okay, I arrive at that conclusion. I'm like, here it is. How do I make sure that like I use that knowledge productively rather than kind of like beating myself up or becoming like, depressed or judging myself or shaming myself? How do I, take the other route?
The other route? Yeah, those are all normal human emotions. First and foremost, I just have to say out there, we're not here to say, don't do this and don't be this way, be this way instead. First, it's just acknowledging that those are normal feelings that arise for us because that's just how our gray matter is predisposed. However, if again, you're like, okay, well, I want something more, we can always shift at any moment. So this is something that I still do right now. I have a really hard time accepting that what I'm doing is enough, right? So even though the work I am doing feels aligned because it's something I enjoy doing, something I want to do, I know I'm doing this because of this and blah, blah, it still to not make it feel so hustly, you know, in terms of doing a lot of things. I get to do a lot of things. That's my reframe. Instead of, man, I have to, you know, take this client call. I have to be on this podcast interview. I have to go run this errand and make sure that I'm fed and watered and all of these things. It's that shift, that mindset shift of like, oh my gosh, I get to work with my clients today. I get to go for a run. I get to make myself a meal and meal prep. And that's a shift I made because I enjoyed what I was doing, but I was starting to feel overwhelmed by it. And did I punish myself for feeling overwhelmed? No, that would be silly, right? Like if you're sad and crying, is it going to help you to be like, oh my gosh, why are you crying again? Or is it going to be okay to be like, okay, let's process these emotions. That person really offended me, or this broke my heart. This is why I'm feeling this way. I'm going to feel through it. And then I know that I have to run that marathon. So I'm going to get up and not hit snooze today, even though I'm feeling really depressed and anxious. It can be as simple as that. And we're not comfortable with self-talk. A lot of people aren't even comfortable on camera. And imagine speaking to yourself like day in, day out. It's not something we're comfortable doing. It's not something that anyone's really taught us how to do. So it's a really good step, if you have those goals and aspirations, to check in and say, hey, like, I'm sad, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I felt lazy yesterday. I watched 2 hours of Netflix, but do I want to run this marathon? Yeah. Can I afford to watch another 2 hours of Netflix tomorrow and the day after that? Probably not, but can I watch a half hour? Sure. Where's the balance, right? How does this fit into my life?
I'm loving this.
Yeah,
Taking notes.
Perfect.
Let's talk about money. You have some phrases in your profile that for some people, you know, we live in the age of like Jeff Bezos, which is a lot of wealth, but also like a lot of like exploitation. So sometimes wealth then, you know, because of a lot of the people who get notoriety for how they built their wealth, can take on these connotations. So you have 2 lines in your bio: wildly profitable and lucrative lives. So why don't you tell me a little bit about, you know, kind of maybe like some mindset stuff around money, or, you know, if for people who are kind of feeling that like to have a lucrative life, you have to become a Jeff Bezos, which means you're a monster, you exploit people. Like, I'd rather not. Can you talk?
Absolutely. Yeah, that level of what lucrative life is to you. Notice how I didn't put like a dollar amount with that, because when I think back to where I was when I first started my business, let's rewind. Let's rewind to back when I was in Jamaica eating rice from a pot with my mom. We had no money to buy food, and were our lives lucrative in that moment? Yes, 100%. And most people would explain or think that I would say no, because we didn't have money. I was eating rice from a pot. I barely had, you know, clothes on my back. But it was the things that I filled my life with to make it feel rich, right? When we look at how much we need to survive on here in America, it's a lot different than a majority of the population, you know, here, especially from me coming from Jamaica. When I send money home to my family in Jamaica, there's a huge difference there. So, you know, it's at this time, it's $1 US to 80 Jamaican. And so my $5 to me here might not be that much, but $5 over there is going to be a lot different. So what I make sure to teach people is these standards of success are defined by you and only you. What is a lucrative life to you? If you come to me and say, Jodi, I need my business to generate five figures or whatnot, we're going to create a strategy for that. First and foremost, I'm going to tell you, like, if that's possible for me to get that result for you. Maybe I will not be able to, depending on what your level, what you're looking for, right? Wildly profitable is a lot, like, seriously, you're either making money in your business or not. So are you turning a profit, right? Are you turning a profit consistently? Are you turning a profit so consistently that you are not just barely scraping by, you have income flowing in where your expenses are flowing out, but you still have an abundance of income, right? So wildly profitable, again, means what is that wildly profitable for you? And it's different for every single one of my clients here, but it's something that I have to put in there Well, I don't have to, but I wanted to, let's be honest. It's something I put in there because that is a big result. That's a big transformation of what I do. So I want to let people know that we're not building hobbies. We're not helping you build your SEO on YouTube and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, YouTube changed their algorithm again. And like, I actually just got an email, and I'm not a YouTuber anymore, but I used to be, where the monetization changed or they changed something that's going to affect you, right? We're building systems and strategies that will help you reach your personal goal on what that level of success looks like for you. Maybe that's $5, maybe that's $50,000. It's different. But the mindset around that really is, again, challenging what we've been taught about money. And for the longest time, it's been that there isn't enough of it. If this person's successful, that's taking away from your success in some way, shape, or form. And I'm here to change the narrative around that. I'm here to say that your reality that you're living in is not the same reality that Jeff is living in. And those decisions, unfortunately, we're going to have people that tarnish the industry, or we're going to have people that don't fully fall under the same morals as we do. And that happens. We think about like MLM or multi-level marketing gets such a bad rep, but I know so many phenomenal multi-level marketing individuals that they are killing it, and they're not implementing sleazy sales tactics. They're not falsely advertising. But I agree. It takes a certain level of self-awareness to say, is this possible for me? And the way I word my branding, the way I word my products, my services, my podcast, all this, everything that extends from the Alignment the New Hustle brand is based on this idea that you have to go out and get that. But you have to define what that means first for you before you can go get that thing.
So let's say, so we're listening, we're going through. So you've worked on my alignment.
Uh-huh.
Now we got like, we're redefining for ourselves what money means, lucrative lives. And I'm with you. You started naming 5 figures. I'm like, ooh, like, yeah, let me get this much amount a month. What would you say are some next steps? And tell me if you want to take something specific. Like, let's say I'm a course creator, or let's say I'm a speaker or a musician or an activist. What would you say are some next steps I should do to start going towards that goal that you just inspired me to name out loud?
Oh, good. Perfect. I'm glad. That's perfect. So we know it's working, right? We know it's working. So let's just do entrepreneurs in general. And of course, we can niche down specifically. But as an entrepreneur, you have several goals. You want to see profit. You want to generate income. Whatever you want to do with that income, leave it 9 to 5, bank it, invest it, travel, whatnot, right? So you also have a product or service, hopefully, that you know is going to actually provide a true transformation for someone else. You know, it's not a hoax. It's not something that you haven't been through. A lot of entrepreneurs out there, if we take a look at why these products and services exist, it's because we didn't have them. So now we're using our message, as we're kind of coming full circle again here, we're using our message to share our story of how we wanted something, we didn't have it, we created it, and that's why we're selling it. That's the story. So if we broke down this whole thing, full transparency, I'm probably like the most transparent business coach out there. The beginning of this video, you know, my about me, we noticed how it wasn't really about me. Like, you don't know my age, you don't know where I'm living right now, you don't know if I have a cat or a dog, you don't know what my favorite color is. My about me is very much about my audience, because I want to show you guys that I can help people achieve this, right? That purpose statement, I help blank to blank by blank. So that would be the first thing, is being clear on your message and your positioning, how you position yourself as an entrepreneur. So if you are a YouTuber, I help other YouTubers monetize their content by sharing strategies on how to capture and engage by writing better headlines or captions or something. I just literally pulled that off the top of my head. Definitely could be better. So when you can position that with one simple statement, that you are on your way. So remember how it's like, I probably changed that like 12 times. It's forever evolving, because I'm evolving. My brand is evolving. My audience is evolving, right? So it's not just a one and done. I'm sure, hopefully no one does this. They go back and back and back. to other videos of me, my intros definitely change. But the idea is there that I'm letting my audience know in this moment, this is who I am. This is who I'm showing up as authentically. This is what I can help you do. So if I don't want to put you on the spot, but if I were to say, what's your purpose statement? What is your mission? Are you able to clearly articulate that to me where I can be like, oh yeah, like, you know, found this really amazing podcaster or YouTuber, and this is what he does, because your audience repeats what you say you do. So if you say, just like your mind does, just like your mind, if you say, I'm lazy, I can't run, I'm too this, I'm too that, I'm too out of shape, I'm too whatever, that's what you become. Like, your mind is so powerful, it's going to be like, you're right, let's just keep sleeping, you know, and that's where the self-sabotaging crosses over. Versus if you say, and the same thing to your audience, if I got on camera and was like, I'm actually lazy, like, I'm actually wearing sweatpants right now, like, I'm not, you're probably wondering if I'm wearing pants. But if that's what I'm putting out into the world, that's what they're gonna repeat. You're probably gonna be like, I interviewed the laziest business coach ever, right? So start with how you want to be perceived, and then from there is a slew of strategies that you can implement. But again, it's all about implementing the right one. So I don't enjoy cold selling in direct messages. So I don't. I enjoy meaningful conversations and meaningful partnerships and collaborations that are ongoing. So that's where I lead to next, is once I can let my audience know what it is that I do, it's time for me to go out and create content and connect with people. So it's like your two CCs, like content and connection. And that will get you far. I'm not saying you don't need a website right now if you're in the beginning stages. You don't need to be spending like $200 a month on Webinar Jam or Kajabi or all these tools that we feel pressure to get because that's what we think makes us successful. No, it's a journey. So the next steps after that is, you know, you have your message and your movement. Just like this, my movement, alignment to your hustle, my brand tagline, you are magic, you are your best resource. Those are the things I repeat often. And it's really, really cool when I see my audience repeating those things, because that's something I made up. Like, that's dope, right? Like, that's pretty cool. So it's that idea that if you want to go far, your message, your word, your movement has to resonate with your audience. And it only resonates when you show up consistently. I'm not saying be on video every day. If that doesn't vibe with you, don't. If that doesn't vibe with you, guess what? You're going to hit that snooze button, right? If it does vibe with you, you're going to be showing up because it's tied to a greater why. However, if you don't want to show up on video every day, maybe you show up on caption. Maybe you show up in forums. Maybe you help people. Maybe you're a connector, right? Maybe you're behind the scenes. So it's finding that like magic sauce that's going to make you tick so you can move your own self forward, where you don't have to depend on other people's content to inspire you, or so you don't have to depend on that friend that gave you all that amazing marathon advice to be like, hey, I'm at your door, let's go running, right? You want to be like self-motivated, have that level of awareness that you know how you're going to get to the next stages in your life and in your business.
I love that. So many gems in there. One, I heard you started to talk about content creation and using it as a way to build connection and build relationships. So let's say I'm listening. I'm like, okay, I've heard this from Tom, I've heard of it from his guests. Now Jodi's bringing it up. Like, I know I should be doing this, but like, I just can't seem to get around to posting every day, maybe because of time. Like, what do you find are some of the barriers that keep people from getting in that content creation game? And if you have any advice for them, how they can overcome those obstacles so they can start, you know, doing that, creating content consistently.
Yeah, creating content should feel easy. And I know for a lot of people it doesn't. So if you're sitting here thinking, well, what do people want to hear about? What does my audience what do they care about? You can always start with someone else's audience. And we're not talking about copying word for word or even copying the structure. We're talking about getting inspiration and looking at someone else's. I recommend go to my Instagram, go at Jodi-Kay Edwards, look at my captions. If that brand is similar to yours, spend some time on there. If it's not, don't spend any time on there, right? So look at the things that I'm talking about. And essentially a lot of those are coming from my audience. But if you're not at that level yet, you can use tools like Uber Suggest, Google Keyword Planner, and you can go ahead and take a look at what like the Neil Patels and the Tony Robbins are posting, right? If you are an Etsy store owner, or if you are a YouTuber, take a look at what Sunny, I can never say her last name, Leo something. Do you know what I'm talking about? Gosh, I feel like I have to pull it up. She's an amazing like YouTube coach. I want to say it's like Leah Narduzzi, but that would be one where she's an amazing resource. So if you're looking to draw inspiration, identify what it is that you are trying to inspire other people to do. When I first started out as an influencer, it was not just to work with brands and get free things. We're thinking, who do you want to influence, right? Who do you want to influence? What do you want to influence? So I was looking at people that were influencing the way that I wanted to influence. So looking at the Tony Robbins of the world, Dean Graziosi, Marie Forleo, Jasmine Star, and there's just a lot of inspirational people out there already, so you don't have to spend a lot of time reinventing the wheel. But that's the first thing. Take a look at the type of content it's posting. You're going to see it's value. What can you teach of value? What is something that you're highly knowledgeable about that's not going to require you to spend an hour to create one Instagram caption? Let's break down the anatomy of an Instagram caption. You're going to find your photo. After you find your photo, let's talk about that hook. How are you going to get people to read more of your Instagram caption or your Facebook caption, right? So is it just like, this is what I ate today, or the 5 things I ate today to improve my metabolism? If that's my zone of genius, I can speak about that easily. If I'm trying to copy someone else and I don't know what the heck I'm talking about, that's not going to come easily. So this is like a fine line. We're not talking about clickbait. We're talking about making it more attractive so your audience, it stands out. And that's where I focus on the visibility strategies, helping you to stand out online, whether you are a personal brand or whether you are an individual that just wants to talk about how amazing your cat is, right? So all of those different things, from your content to the hook, to getting people to read more about it, to your call to action, and then your hashtags that break down, it's something that you can batch schedule. And if you're trying to do this every day, you might feel overwhelmed, you might feel burnt out. Different strokes for different folks. So if you like the thrill of that, you can maybe spend 20 minutes to an hour each day to create some new content. Or you can do what I like to do and set aside some time on the weekend and just carve out, I don't know where that came from, carve out 4 hours of the month to batch and create content. Again, let me tell you how I got here was the Gary V and the Gary V's of the world, right? Gary V believes a lot in the hustle. So you might be thinking, hey, Jodi, like, why do you follow him if his brand is totally like opposite of what yours is? He does have a lot of good points too there, which we won't get into right now. However, something I heard when I was just starting out was, you need to show up every day. You need to create content every single day. And I was like, how, right? What do I do? And then I was like, okay, well, I know I need to create content every day to get visible. That's what I thought. And that's what turned out to be false for me. Was if I was just doing it just because I knew I had to get a new Instagram post up, I wasn't doing it at all. I was hitting snooze, technically, right? Kind of seeing the metaphor there. I was hitting snooze on that, and I just kept putting it off, and I kept putting it off, and I kept putting it off. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, 30 days went by, and I didn't have new content up. Now today, I'm comfortable with posting on Instagram and letting it go by, because I know I'm documenting my day-to-day sometimes, or I have a valuable piece of content in my content bank from batch scheduling. So this would be like tip number 2, if you're not big on batch scheduling, is document what you're doing. Because if you're trying to sell something, especially if you're trying to sell something, if you're not, totally fine. If you're just trying to grow following, people like to know what you're up to.
So say if I took a photo and that was going to be my content, and I was going to put that on my Instagram story. I'm simply just documenting a process right now. I'm documenting something that I'm doing. If I got up and made my coffee, snapped a quick photo, that's content, right? I'm making it valuable. I'm not just saying this is what I'm drinking today. I might say, as a busy entrepreneur on the go, this is my favorite coffee. I get it from Target. It's blah, blah. Helping my audience see something of value, but still being visible because I'm sharing something with a purpose. I'm not just here's a cup of coffee, and my audience is like, okay, cool. That's a really cute coffee cup, right? If I can make it valuable in I hate to keep saying in alignment, but on par with my brand, or following, the same verbiage I use on my brand or my business, or the same colors and things like that, all of a sudden I have content. For example, like this piece of content we can repurpose. So that would be the third step. The third point, whatever you batch schedule or whatever you do to create content, whatever you document in your day-to-day, repurpose it. So this can be repurposed, as I know we've already talked about, into Instagram content. The audio can be taken to be put on a podcast. The video can go on YouTube. The video can also go in a Facebook group. The verbiage, if we got it translated, could go on a Medium article or our own personal blog article. That's one piece of content that you've now exploded into like all these different types of content. So don't be afraid to reuse the content that you do find time to create.
Y'all don't realize, maybe you do, Jodi just dropped some serious gems. So what I want people to do is, especially people who are trying to create more content, to go back and listen to that past 5 minutes, how you broke down those 5 steps, because those were phenomenal. So I appreciate that, Jodi.
I'm glad. Nothing on the table. Open book.
Yes.
Is that the worst, when you watch something and they like dance around the goals and you're like, okay, I just learned about what you do for 30 minutes. Cool. That's the worst. I hate it.
Well, you're doing a tremendous job. You're bringing lots of value to people listening. So it makes sense why you're an expert and you're having so much success. It's coming across very transparently.
Thank you. I'm glad.
So you might have heard me say at the beginning that this is my year of grace. And it's almost so close here. I think you're going to be like the last 2 or 3 year of grace episodes.
Love that. I've chilled. Very cool.
Yes. So what does grace look like in your life? How would you define grace? Any reflections you have on grace?
Yeah. So this might be a little bit too literal, but whenever I think of handling hard situations with grace, or whenever I think of handling any situation, I want to think, did I handle that gracefully? And so to me, I'm like, okay, well, if I broke that down, what does that mean? Handle it with grace. What we give grace this meaning. And so I'm sure it's relative. It's different to every individual. But to me, grace means that it's reflecting how I truly am. So in that moment of anger, if I choose not to handle it with grace, is that reflecting it? Am I truly that anger, right? Am I truly that person who feels the need to say this or do this out of anger? Or can I handle it with grace, where it's going to be something more that kind of feels well, or feels good to me? We think of like, oh, she carried herself with so much grace at online or at the Emmys. Would love to go to the Emmys someday. And then sometimes we might say like, oh, that person like was a hot mess, right? So when I think back on statements like that, I'm like, in that moment, did I do everything that I wanted to do? Did I achieve what I wanted to achieve? Did I accomplish what I came to accomplish? And this is my year of grace. When I'm looking back at my year, I'm like, oh my gosh, there were so many ups and so many downs. But at the end of the day, it really was my year, because I was able to accomplish, and I could go through my bucket list, but like I crossed off so many things off of my bucket list. I crossed off so many things off on my goals and my goals and aspirations that I had for myself. So it really does feel, when I think, okay, was this my year of grace? Yeah, because I like was authentically me. I accomplished what I set out to accomplish. And even if I didn't, I learned so many things about myself. And like that to me is like, whew, cool. We made it. We made it through another year. Still intact, still the same, changed a little bit, but it's not anything that I'm embarrassed about or wouldn't be excited to talk about with a stranger or someone that I knew for a really long time.
Wait, did you say it's your year of grace too?
It could be, if I think about it.
Okay. I thought you were saying that it was your year of grace.
Yeah, I've never explained it like that, but like I've never added the grace piece in there. But I love that you said that, because it kind of like forced me to add it in, and I did say that. Yeah, if we rewound, I'm pretty sure I did say that. It just like came out naturally. So I would say like, the more I'm on this entrepreneurial journey, the year I'm currently in, at the end of it, when I reflect, it turns out to be my best year yet. So like at the end of last year, it felt like my best year yet. At the end of this year, like, and I'm already thinking this, like, this was my best year yet. Not just like for what I made in my business, not just for the personal development, not just because of like the people I met. It's that those collective experiences that I can reflect on. And it's like, I'm super happy with those decisions that I made. So.
Kind of like in your bio, how you have the journey itself was transformative, not just the profit and the business side.
Yeah, look at that. Oh my God, I'm so authentic.
Oh, that's amazing. Where can folks reach out to you to tell you how awesome you are, to be a part of your world, all of that kind of stuff? Where can they get in touch?
I am branded at Jodi-Kay Edwards pretty much everywhere. Jodi-Kay Jodi-Kay Edwards on Instagram. And then you'll see like some magical moments where my other brand, Alignment is a New Hustle, is there. So I am an extension of that brand and vice versa, but mostly Jodi-Kay Edwards anywhere. If you type Alignment is a New Hustle, things will come up, but it's like my podcast and my Facebook group, which still has my name in it.
I'm going to use that line from now on. Google Tom Earl and things will come up.
They will. And I kind of regretting saying that. You honestly, I bet if you Google Jodi-Kay Edwards, there's good things everywhere, but like the main business things will show up. And if you get to like page 5, 6, 7, you're probably going to be able to find my college capstone presentation on what is so funny. I just Googled myself the other day because I wanted to kind of check and see what was out there on like, I can't remember, queuing lines and queuing. Like if someone is in this line and leaves to this line, and then you notice that now this line is shorter, random. You're going to find some things from my school, blogs, comments. Oh my gosh, don't Google me.
Or if you do, stay on page 1, folks. Stay on page 1.
Stay on page 1.
Show notes for folks on the go, tomrell.com/Jodi, tomrell.com/JODI, tomrell.com/Jodi. You'll find all of the links that we have access to for ways you can get in touch with Jodi. Just recommend that you check out her website, check out the resources, and please follow her on social. Send her a DM, let her know how much you appreciated listening to this episode. I know it'll mean a lot to both of us. So, Jodi, thank you so much for, taking the leap of faith of being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I had a great time.
And we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but we both, are Milwaukee kin. So right. That's always nice.
Right? What a small world. Who thought moving to Texas is when I would connect with the more Milwaukee people after I left. But you're not there either, so it's okay.
It's kind of like, when you're in another country, that's when you're like, oh, you're from the US, or like if you're on the moon, we're both from the world. Like when you're gone, that's when you're like, oh, we're both from this place.
Right. Exactly what happened.
So our closing ritual is for you to share an invitation with those who are listening. So what would be your invitation to them to think about, to do, to become, to evolve into? What is your invitation?
My invitation is for you to love your life. And that means creating your own strategies, creating your own system, your own ritual. Let's call it a morning routine or a morning ritual, so you can feel high vibe and understand that self-motivation is how you're going to get there.
I love that. And if you don't mind expanding, what's high vibe to you?
Totally. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm using all these woo terms because I'm like normally talking to my audience or like other audiences that are the same vibe. So high vibe is literally everything we talked about earlier, right? We talked about feeling in alignment, being on track. If we're to recap, we talked about those, that self-awareness, those habits that you have. And so when you're in this higher vibrational state, like scientifically, we're at our core, we're made up of, right, this energy, right? Energy, neurons, atoms, all those things. So when you can raise that vibration, you're essentially, that's generally when you're feeling great. Have you ever walked into a room, or you've heard the expression, you can cut the tension with a knife? You literally sometimes can. Like, it feels so heavy. You're like, oh, I just don't enjoy this feeling of these, what's happening here. It's because without us knowing it or not, we're emitting that. We're emitting that energy. So that's the sciencey portion of it. And then if we just tuck that all into one state of being high vibe, that's essentially what we're meaning, is making sure we can be in that state where we're attracting more of what we want and repelling the things that we don't, by being in that match where our things are hanging out. So for your level of success that you're seeking, which is very different to each individual, that's hanging out on a different vibrational state than where you are, which is why that's the explanation we can come up with for why we haven't experienced that yet. Maybe we're not ready. Maybe we're not fully aware of what that would be like. Like earlier when I said, oh, like 5 figures, that's maybe that's something that you might be repelling because it's not something you're ready for yet. And that's totally fine. That's what the journey is for, to get ready for the things we want, right? So as we're on this journey, the best way to say it is, if we know that the things we want are hanging up out here, and we're trying to figure out how to get there, whether it's a straight line, whether it's an up and down line, either way, we know we want to get here. And we follow that invitation that we just invited you to do, to create your, your morning routine, or create these success habits, check in with yourself, the personal development, so you can get there. It's like a car. You have to put gas into the car to get there. You are the car. And so if you're constantly hitting these mental roadblocks, you're constantly telling yourself, you can't do this, you're not good enough, blah, blah, blah. Full transparency, that's something I have to have, this self-talk, because I would say my biggest thing that I'm working through right now is comparing my journey. And I am like, not here to be a hypocrite. Like, I'm here to share with you, even though it sounds like everything is going like super great all the time, I have to let people know, like, you're human. So just because it might look like things are great or things are happening, you don't know, because that's my journey. That's not yours. So remembering that you're on your own very unique journey, and you know that if your great things are happening up here, you have to be in this higher vibrational state to get there.
I'm so glad I asked the clarifying question, because that was phenomenal. Invitation bonus round.
Right?
So Jodi, one more time on behalf of myself and everybody listening, just want to thank you. So much gratitude to you for all that you're doing in the world, and specifically for sharing your gifts with us here today. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it. I'm high vibe right now. Just sharing my gifts. So I love it. Thank you so much.
Of course. And to all of those who are listening, as always, we're wishing you peace and blessings. Thank you.
One more thing. I'd love to continue the conversation. Feel free to join me at tomearl.com/join. Subscribe below, or let's connect on social media. Tom Earl Artist. Thanks again for watching.